total of 9 U.S. presidents spoke the Greek language. I didn't even know that. I'm very surprised, pleasantly surprised. The Greek language is not just a means of communication, it's a means of understanding. It's also a means of creating, inspiring, supreme spiritual exercise. It's used in a lot of scientific realms. 9 U.S. presidents spoke Greek as the accompanying material demonstrate. They were from Thomas Jefferson, president from 1801 to 1809, to Chester A. Arthur, 1881 to 1885. Greece, the birthplace of democracy and culture, cradle of values and ideals, and later the Greece of the Revolution for Freedom inspired, and almost all the leading intellectuals considered honored and felt need to speak the ultimate language, the Greek language. And after the founding of the Greek state, we decided with many frivolous, opportunistic, provocative, and unnecessary interventions, reformers making them call themselves to alter the language, to degrade it, to marginalize it. And as a result, it's dried up the lips of all subsequent American presidents and many intellectuals. We did not understand that especially the Greek language is not just a means of communication. It's also a means of understanding. It's a means of creation and inspiration, supreme ritual exercise. We did not understand that these 24 letters of the Greek alphabet are not mere symbols engraved by mortals. They are God's caresses on earth. They're made of divine essence. And so we learn the Greek language not only to communicate, but think mainly, to think, to inspire, and to create. As we know, the U.S. has not established an official language. That's how the fathers of this great democracy, the democratic country, the United States, decided. So we have to emphasize this in order to stop the defeat of the Greek language from English, and indeed for a vote in the process of voting for the official language in the United States. I had the pleasant chance of going to Williamsburg, Virginia, and that's where one of our tour guides told us that the founding fathers almost voted Greek as the official language of the new country of the United States, but it was turned down by one vote, I think from the senator from New York, because of all the fact that most of the intellectuals of the founding fathers of the time, at that age, spoke Greek. And it was turned down by one vote. Now, what is the official language of the United States, according to the Constitution? I was surprised to hear this. The United States has no statutory official language. English has been used on a de facto basis, owing to its status as the country's predominant language. Now, why didn't the founding fathers make English the official language? It simply may not have occurred to them. It's not as far-fetched as it may sound. It was not until after near the end of the Constitutional Convention that someone suggested something as essential as a Bill of Rights, and the convention decided against that proposal as unnecessary. All 55 delegates to the Constitutional Convention spoke English. They took it for granted English was the language of this country. Since the overwhelming majority of the American population spoke English, the founders may not have thought it necessary to declare in law what existed in fact. And those who say the founders favored a multilingual government for the United States point to documents published in French and German during the American Revolution. The fact remains that after the Constitution of 1789 created our present form of government, there is not a single example of Congress approving multilingual publications during the time of the founding fathers. Just 6 years after the Constitution took effect, Congress deliberately rejected a request to publish copies of federal laws in German. From this incident arose the myth that, by one vote, German failed to become our national language. And 2 years later, Congress rejected a similar request. The debate cited the cost of printing in multiple languages and the confusion that might result from problems in translation, concerns as valid today as 200 years ago. In 1811, President James Madison signed the Louisiana Enabling Act, establishing the conditions under which Louisiana could become a state. It required the laws, records, and written proceedings of the new state to be in English. Opponents of the official English trend to ignore the votes against printing laws in German, and that James Madison, architect of the Constitution, approved a bill that mandated English as the language of government of Louisiana, and these inconvenient facts hurt their claim that the Founding Fathers favored multilingual government. The Founders never deliberately decided against making English the official language of the United States, but the leaders of the United States deliberately decided against multilingual government in the 1790s. It's reasonable to think that they would decide similarly in the 1990s. Now, we have a beautiful image here of various presidents who spoke the Greek language. Now, which language did John Adams speak? He spoke English, French, and Latin. Thomas Jefferson spoke Latin, Italian, French, Spanish, and Greek. James Madison spoke Latin, Greek, English, and Hebrew. James Madison, who we spoke about in 1811, signing the Louisiana Enabling Act. He spoke Latin, Greek, English, and Hebrew. James Monroe spoke English and French. John Quincy Adams spoke Latin, Greek, French, German, and Dutch. Martin Van Buren spoke Latin and English. William Henry Hartland spoke Latin, English, and French. John Tyler spoke Latin, Greek, and English. James Polk spoke Latin, Greek, and English. James Buchanan, Latin, Greek, and English. Rutherford Hayes spoke Latin, Greek, English, and French. James Garfield, Latin, Greek, German, and English. Chester Arthur, Latin, Greek, and English. Theodore Roosevelt, French, German, Dutch, and Italian. Woodrow Wilson, English and German. Herbert Hoover, Latin, English, and Chinese. Wow. Franklin D. Roosevelt, Latin, French, German, and English. Jimmy Carter, Spanish and English. William Clinton, English and German. George W. Bush, English and Spanish. And Barack Obama, English and Indonesian. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.